So you don't want to turn your Verso into a machine gun, and instead want him to hit things really hard with abilities. Well, that's exactly what you get with Berserker Verso. This build is great for those of you who can't help but get hit, because Verso wants to be on low health. However, being at 1 health will definitely leave Verso in some dicey situations, so you'll need to be ready to make some clutch parries and dodges. The biggest advantage of the Berserker build is that it requires way less Lumina investment and scales much faster than the machine gun build. You can basically use this build as soon as you get Verso, and he'll carry your team through Act 2 while still being a major threat in Act 3. Perfection is Verso's unique mechanic, and it's one of the easiest to grasp in the entire game. He begins every battle at D rank and builds up towards S rank with every attack he lands. The more you attack, the faster he climbs. The catch is that every time Verso takes a hit, his rank drops, so you'll need to stay aggressive and avoid getting tagged. The payoff is massive. D rank gives you nothing, C rank bumps damage by 25%, B hits 50%, A doubles it with 100% boost, and S rank is a ridiculous 200% damage increase. That's why everything revolving around Verso is about staying on the offensive. Use free aim shots, use extra turns, chain your basic attacks, and multi-hits. The more you keep the pressure on, the faster you hit S rank and start melting everything in your way. At least that's how you would traditionally do things. However, with Berserker Verso, we have multiple tools that get us to S rank much faster. So let's go over them. Once you gather all of the pieces, this build becomes incredibly powerful in Act 2, so let's start with the early skills. First is Blitz. Blitz is fantastic in Act 2 thanks to Verso's high burst damage. It executes enemies at 10% health and gives you an extra turn. It's cheap, fills a good niche, and it gets the job done. Next is the namesake of the build, Berserk Slash. This will be your main source of damage throughout the entire game. It scales harder the lower your health is, making it perfect for those who tend to get hit, or for anyone using this build properly. It also synergizes extremely well with our chosen Luminas and 2 other key abilities, starting with our next one in Overload. Overload instantly drops Verso to 1 health, giving him full AP and boosting his rank to A. Once you've got the right Pictos, like Solidifying and In Media Res, this ability becomes your go-to opener. You'll still have solid defense from those Pictos, and you'll immediately get the damage boost from both low HP and high rank, turning Verso into a one-man army, capable of outputting more damage than your other 2 companions combined. Next is Defiant Strike, which consumes 30% of your health to deal solid damage and apply a mark. Marks are super underrated in this game. They give a 50% damage boost to the next attack, which is huge. The health loss doesn't matter for this build since we want to be low health. It's a great skill when you want Verso to start strong in a fight without opening with Overload. This makes the build a sort of pseudo-marking hybrid, giving it more utility than just raw damage. Then there's Phantom Stars. If this isn't on every Verso build you've ever made, then your build is just wrong, unless you're deliberately nerfing yourself. This is hands down Verso's best ability, no matter the build. It deals heavy AoE damage and breaks everything in sight. The only requirement is that you be at S rank to use it for cheap, which is super easy to achieve with this setup. Finally, we have Radiant Slash. This one's more of a situational tool. It's good for quick, cheap breaks, especially if you're dealing with multiple enemies. It doesn't do real damage, but that's fine. We'll mostly rely on the other 5 abilities anyway. As mentioned earlier, Verso's early game is strong with this build. Your ideal setup is to get to low health, either by using Overload, Defiant Strike, or just taking a hit. Combined with your weapon, which we'll cover later, or with Overload, you'll quickly climb to A or even S rank, and then you can start shredding enemies with Berserk Slash or Phantom Stars, depending on whether you need AoE or focused single target damage. I'll show the recommended early Pictos on screen now. They're also linked in the description. Grab In Media Res and Solidifying as soon as possible. Being on 1 HP is risky, so those extra 5 shields are essential. It gives you both offensive and defensive strength right out of the gate. When you hit Act 3, not much changes. The biggest upgrade is getting the Painted Power Picto, which lets Verso hit entirely new damage levels. The final skill slot, where Radiant Slash was in the early game, becomes flexible. You can run whatever you want here. As for Blitz, we'll swap that out for Leadership. Verso doesn't really struggle to maintain a high rank. His weapon and overload handle that, so having the option to D-rank and feed AP to your allies adds some nice team utility. Your combat loop stays the same. Use overload or Defiant Strike to drop to low health, then spam Berserk Slash for huge damage, with Phantom Stars for AoE or breaking. Don't be afraid to weave in Defiant Strikes. They help mark enemies for even more damage and set up your team. We'll be grabbing the Double Mark and Stay Marked Pictos too, which help you keep enemies marked throughout the fight and add synergy for any teammate that has abilities that use marks. For weapons, early game is easy. Blood 'em. It's absolutely amazing. It guarantees S rank from turn 1. Lets you skip overload if your health is already low, and has great agility scaling so you can hit hard and hit fast. Late game is where it gets messy. Honestly, I don't love any of the options. You can just keep using Blood'em and it'll still work, but it doesn't offer much late game value. Shovel'em gives you higher damage but disables shields, which is obviously super risky for a 1 HP build, so use it at your own risk. There's also Samoso, which I hesitate to recommend because most players won't get it. It's the very last weapon you will unlock. But it's solid, it deals extra damage and makes you invincible as long as your rank stays high. For stats, go agility first, specifically when you're using Blood'em at the very least. If you keep using it, go defense second and might third. If you switch weapons, then go with whatever has S scaling first, A scaling second, and might third. That's pretty much the best spread most of the time. Also, make sure your crit hits 50% so that the critical moment Picto gives you the other 50% and gets you to 100%. Let's talk Pictos. I'll show the full list on screen now. You can also check the leveling guide linked below. Like I said earlier, grab Solidifying and In Media Res as early as possible. We've also got some marking related Pictos to help maximize Defiant Strike's team support potential. This whole build and many of its Pictos are designed to support a full glass cannon playstyle. Verso's best teammate is a CL. She pairs insanely well with high burst characters and can use Fortune's Fury and Intervention to set him up for success. You can even run this build with my Sacrifice CL build. She'll take Verso's HP for her own attacks, letting you skip overload entirely. Like I mentioned earlier, this build also fits perfectly into a Mark team comp. For example, Monoko's Sekapitate Slam hits super hard on marked enemies, but honestly this Verso build works just fine as a standalone monster. That's the Berserker Verso build. Low HP, massive damage, and terrifying AoE. If you want to play aggressively and reward high risk, high reward gameplay, this is the one. Check the description for the full leveling guide, and let me know how much damage you hit with Berserk Verso in the comments. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.